For as long as games have existed, the fighter genre has been a pillar of the industry, and though it's not quite as front and center of things as it used to be decades ago, it still holds a great deal of value. Every year we get treated to excellent fighters and brawlers, and in the coming months, things are looking no different. In this feature, we'll be highlighting 16 major fighting games, as well as a few brawlers and beat-em-ups that are coming this year or soon afterward, while also mentioning a couple that have already launched. So without further ado, let's begin. Mortal Kombat 11. People have been looking forward to Mortal Kombat 11 for some time now, and after much anticipation, it's finally almost here. Typically, it looks absolutely incredible, promising much gore, brutalities, and fatalities, combined with what's looking like a strong roster, as well as the kind of strong campaigns NetherRealm Studios usually delivers. Mortal Kombat 11 is undoubtedly very close to the top of many most anticipated lists. Shovel Knight SHOWDOWN. Shovel Knight is a gift that just keeps on giving. After an excellent base game, which was followed by a slew of free and meaty post-launch expansions, indie masterminds are now coming up with a fighting twist of their series with Shovel Knight SHOWDOWN. It remains to be seen just how well the experience will turn out, given how different it promises to be from what we're used to in Shovel Knight, but it's one to watch out for nonetheless. Samurai SHOWDOWN. It's been over a decade since we last saw a Samurai SHOWDOWN game, and even longer since what one might consider a classic-style game in the series. But with Samurai SHOWDOWN this year, the beloved franchise is finally coming back. Going for neither 2D nor 3D and instead going with a 2.5D approach, Samurai SHOWDOWN is looking to take the best of both worlds. Here's hoping it's a triumphant comeback for SNK's series. Dead or Alive 6. Dead or Alive returned after nearly a decade-long hiatus earlier this year, and though Dead or Alive 6 is not without its issues, it's still a welcome reminder of why the franchise is as big as it is. A disappointing campaign cannot be ignored, but with solid fighting mechanics and systems that are easy to pick up but are not lacking in depth, Dead or Alive 6 is a compelling entry in a long-running series nonetheless. Jump Force. Thanks to its very premise, Jump Force had the potential to be something truly special. By now, it's become clear that it's anything but, with more flaws than one could care to count. But there's no denying that the core fighting mechanics at the very least are solid enough so that when the game actually works, it can be a lot of fun. Not to mention the fact that if you're a fan of anime and manga, Jump Force is probably a must-buy for you regardless, owing simply to its roster. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. Not the most high-profile upcoming release, but an interesting one nonetheless. Developers Inway are making the jump from mobile devices to consoles and taking cues from Marvel vs. Capcom's tag battle mechanics while doing so. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid is attempting to strike a balance between being a game for veterans and being one that's accessible to all, and though something like that can easily go wrong, it'll be worth seeing just how this game in particular turns out. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. Grand Blue Fantasy isn't a name you think of when you think of fighters, while being based on an RPG series that, at least so far, has been predominantly on mobile devices. But given the fact that fighting genre veterans Arc System Works are developing Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, we can't help but sit up and take notice. There is much we don't know about the game yet, but Arc System Works have proven over the years that they don't make bad fighters very often, so for now, color us cautiously optimistic. Lethal League Blaze. Lethal League Blaze kind of slipped under the radar when it launched on PC last year, but as those who played it will tell you, it deserved much more attention than it got. With inventive combat, a stylish look, and an excellent soundtrack, it was perhaps one of the most underrated games of 2018. Later this year, it launches on PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch, and hopefully, on those platforms, it will get the recognition it deserves. Million Arthur Arcana Blood. Million Arthur Arcana Blood comes to PC this year, allowing Western audiences to finally play Square Enix's fighter, what with its 2018 PS4 release having been limited to Japan only. With its otherworldly premise and what Square Enix is promising will be a full-featured release in both single-player and multiplayer departments, this one is worth keeping an eye out for. Kill La Kill the Game If. Based on the popular anime series, Arc System Works and A+ Games are bringing a video game adaptation, in the fighting genre no less, with Kill La Kill the Game If. Based on the little we've seen so far, it's looking promising, especially thanks to its eye-catching art style and aesthetic. Here's hoping we learn more about it soon. Fantasy Strike. Fantasy Strike is yet another game that has already seen a release on PC, where it's still currently in early access and has, sadly enough, been looked over by many. This year it launches on PS4 and Switch, and when it does, it'll be bringing with it an excellent and engaging experience that appeals to fighting veterans and newcomers alike. It's almost the perfect example of easy to pick up, hard to master, with the simplicity and level of mechanical depth it offers at the same time. If you're a fan of the genre, do not sleep on it. Streets of Rage 4. Streets of Rage is back, baby! After 25 years of radio silence from the beloved franchise, developers Lizard Cube and Guard Crush Games are working together to bring us Streets of Rage 4 in what is one of the best pleasant surprises of the last few years. We haven't seen much of it so far, but what we have seen shows the same classic beat-em-up action we know and love, and that by itself is reason enough to get excited. One Finger Death Punch 2. The 2013 beat-em-up One Finger Death Punch wasn't on many people's radars when it first launched, but it surprised a lot of people with just how fun it was. One Finger Death Punch 2 looks like everything its predecessor was: fun, accessible, addictive, with new skills, stages, and modes thrown into the mix for good measure. Stranger Things 3: The Game. Here's another beat-em-up for you. Based on the upcoming third season of Netflix's popular series, Stranger Things 3: The Game isn't the kind of Stranger Things game you would expect, but one that looks strangely compelling nonetheless. Combining beat-em-up combat with action RPG elements and an excellent 16-bit visual style, it's certainly looking intriguing so far. Let's hope we get to see and learn more about it soon. Metal Revolution. If you want a fighting game that lets you play as robots locked in furious combat, this one might be worth a look. Being developed by indie team Next Studios, Metal Revolution is touting minimalistic controls, but not at the cost of mechanical depth. The aesthetic definitely looks interesting as well, so keep an eye on this one. Blazing Strike. 2D fighter Blazing Strike, developed by indie team Rare Breed, hasn't received a ton of info or updates so far, but the little that we've seen of it in action is showing promise. The game is promising fast and accessible combat, along with what are being described as dynamic mechanics. The game's out later this year, supposedly on PS4, Switch, and PC. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.